Welcome, 239 Uncensored, everything Southwest Florida and beyond. And we are live in the studio today. We've got the sheriff, Kevin Rambosk, and Undersheriff Colonel Jim Bloom. Get that name. Two really very special people. And first off, this is a special live. We're going to talk about school safety, things that have been going on in our community. And, you know, we at the Collier County Sheriff's Office, and I say we because I'm always going to be a member of the Collier County Sheriff's Office, we are doing a lot of things and we've done a lot of things, but we are here to just let the parents know that, you know, hey, listen, this is something we've been doing for a long time. We want to reassure them the best we can. You know, that's very important. Welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Thanks, Timmy G.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. No, it's great to have you guys. First off, you know, let's offer our condolences out to those folks in Texas. Just a terrible situation, Robb Elementary School. You know, when you see these things come across, you're always saying to yourself, like, gosh, this can't happen in our community. We can't allow this to happen. And, you know, these young kids get up that day and these teachers get up, you know, in the morning, they expected it to be a normal day, right? You know, so it's heartbreaking when you see this stuff on the news.
Yeah, I think when you look around the country, you just think to yourself, as you said, it can't be happening again. And you know, you hope that when emergencies occur, the agencies involved and responsible for that area are prepared to address them. I can tell you, and the colonel will talk a little bit more about some of the tactics and training that's important. But you know, they're very clearly over the last decade, we've been continuing to evolve. As you know, our program's been in place since 1977. We've been growing that over the years, and certainly each time there's a tragic event, from Columbine through Sandy Hook to Parkland, we have always reviewed what our policies, our procedures, our equipment, our tactics are. And I think that's essential for any law enforcement agency to do, to remain current with the tactics that are presented. I know there's a lot of discussion going on about responses and concerns, and we're not going to know that for a while yet before this evaluation's done. However, I think it's really important for us to let our residents know what we do here, and we're very fortunate. First, I got to say thank you to our residents for providing us the resources, the personnel, the training, the specialized equipment, and the tactics that we're able to provide. And you know, at one time, Tim, since you were in YRB for a long time, in fact, that's how we met.
Yes, long time ago, Naples High back in 1990.
Absolutely.
3
and
2.
Yes, a while. So. You know how we've progressed through the years, and today our YRD staff is probably the second most highly specially trained group in the organization. SWAT is first, and then tactics and training for our YRBs. In addition to providing that positive influence and just connectivity to our young people, to let them know we're here to give you a comfortable environment to learn, and we're going to do everything humanly possible to affect that. And but you know, there's no one thing. I don't think anyone is going to ever be able to say this is what we have to do. And Jim and I will go over a variety of things, but there is an accumulation of policies, procedures, tactics, strategies, but most importantly, we have to go back to prevention. You know, tactically, we are great. We have the best tactically trained people, whether it be SWAT or YRB, in the entire country. That's as far as I'm concerned.
I believe that.
But you know, I don't want it to get that far. I don't want to have to engage inside a school. We want to find and evaluate, and that's why we have such a great threat management program that we've been put in place, and we're about to be recognized for nationally.
Yeah, no, and Colonel, echo on that. I'm sure you got so much to talk.
Yeah, unfortunately, we talk about this for hours, and it's something that's very near and dear to both the sheriff and I. A couple things, as you stated earlier, we have one of the longest running youth relations programs in the country, 40 plus years. So that we have had deputies in schools. And with that being said, in 2008, when the sheriff took over, he realized we needed to continue to push to eventually have deputies in every school. And that was the goal. And so as we progressed from 2008 forward, when Marjorie Stoneman hit, we were actually in pretty good shape by the state standard of putting deputies in all schools at that point, because the sheriff had set us up. I say that because he hit it on it earlier. There is no one thing. And what I want to preface it to, you hear a lot of Monday morning quarterback, guessing. The sheriff said it. We won't know all the facts for days, weeks, months till they do the evaluation of it. I say that because this is not a time to be political. This is not a time, to try to do something for gain. We need to try to learn off this incident as we have all the ones that came prior to this. Every agency in this country is an evolution of how we respond. And there's a lot of things that go in place, such as in my opinion, the sheriff's opinion, should all schools have law enforcement? Yes, no doubt about it. In the country, that is where we're going to have to go. And I believe this is probably the incident that's going to do that. We look back, Combine was you really look at, there's been four major incidents in schools that have changed the evolution of active shooter. Combine was the first. I'd been on SWAT approximately 1996. During that time, prior to Combine, the standard across the country was if you had a shooting incident going on, patrol would respond, hold the perimeter, and wait till SWAT got there. We learned you don't have that time in Combine. Seconds,
you got to get in.
It's a death toll. Every second amounts to a body. That changed that whole tactic. Then you fast forward to Sandy Hook, and you're dealing with body counts. And that was another changer. Then you go forward to Marjorie Stoneman, in our case, less than 100 miles away, very close to us in Florida here in Naples. That again changed specifically for Florida because a lot of state regulation came out of mandatory law enforcement in schools at that point, and tactics and certain types of training that had to be put in place, which we were in a great spot as a result of the sheriff and his vision. We were already pretty much had all that taken care of. And now you fast forward till the Robb Elementary incident in Texas, and that is going to be a game changer. And there's one other thing I'd like to add on that. Really, another pivotal point, although it wasn't a school, unfortunately happened here in Florida too, and that's the Pulse Nightclub, which, as you know, Sheriff Minor was very involved in that aspect of it in Orlando. What that changed, though, and I bring that up, is we learned when we respond and you have a barricaded subject, they pulled out, and we learned from that aspect of it, trying to negotiate. Your death toll has a chance of going up with injured people. Unfortunately, I think we're going to learn that in this incident too. We don't have time for that. You have to go. You have to push forward and isolate and eliminate that threat and develop casualty collection points, which we'll go into some of the things we've done later on. So you really walking through the hierarchy. My point is these incidents evolve every time, and we learn from them.
Yeah.
And active assailant or school violence, it really doesn't matter. The goal and our policy as created was go to the shooter and neutralize the threat. And we have that essentially written almost exactly like that, not the shooter, but obviously, right. Go immediately responding directly to the incident and neutralizing the threat.
And I think people need to understand that and I have had the opportunity, and I'm going to be teaching in Orlando, and I'm teaching at the sheriff's office as well, to the new school resource officers. So what we need to let those folks know that, and the very first thing I say when we come into class, those days working in the schools are no longer like officer friendly. Now, can we be friendly? Absolutely. However, you're basically signing up for, if you hear gunshots, you are going in, and unfortunately, things may happen, but you are going and you are neutralizing the threat, like the sheriff said, and there is going to be absolutely nothing else but that. You're going to lay down some lead, and again, nobody wants to hurt anybody, but if someone comes into your school and they're shooting, we have an obligation, or those SROs have an obligation, to go there and immediately do that. And I tell them right up the bat, if this is not something you are willing to do, don't sign up for this job. right? So that's kind of what we do. And I think you're right in line with exactly what we teach.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a long time, though. This is not something new.
No. And I think there's one thing that's as important, and that is recognizing every single deputy out there, because no matter what you respond to,
Yes.
that responsibility to go to the gunfire and neutralize the threat is there. So, everybody needs to know that no matter who you are, no matter what your assignment, when it starts to happen, you go. Again, if you're not comfortable in that, then maybe we should find something else for you to do.
Right.
Yeah, this probably isn't the job for you. And just to piggyback in on that is part of our training all the time. That is part of the reminder. And quite frankly, every day we put this uniform on, we tell all of our members, look in the mirror and be ready to take action today. That's your job and your responsibility. And if we have these types of incident, it really comes down to three things: locate, isolate, eliminate. It's that simple. And that is your job. And if you can't do that, then this is probably not the profession for you. And I can't put it any other way.
Yeah. So parents are shaking, right? They're shaking, everywhere, in every community, right? Throughout the country and probably beyond, right? So what are we doing? And I know, because I've, been in that role before, but what are we doing? And I know we work very well with Dr. Patton. We work very well with the school systems, the privates and publics, but tell us what we're doing to make sure. And again, I don't know if we can make sure this never happens, but to try to minimize or eliminate that potential the best we can.
Well, I think the first thing is, and you mentioned it, partnerships with other organizations, in this case being the Collier County Public School System. We have a great and supportive superintendent, staff, and board who have backed every request to harden the school system. And so from a safety perspective, I got to tell you, when we make a request and it is fulfilled, that is supporting the effort. So it's facilities, it's procedures on the school system side, it is mental health, addressing both teaching for teachers, to teachers, and also making it available for students.
Yeah. So we have been so proactive in the past, right? And for those you don't know, in Collier County, we have been, like I said, we had this program since 1977. I remember that the initial response from the school board when Sheriff Aubrey Rogers came, they said, listen, we love the idea, but deputies cannot have guns in the schools, right? So things have changed a lot since then. But starting today, and again, we know we've been doing it for a long time, what are some of the things that we're going to try to put in place to make changes today?
Yeah, I'll jump in here real quick and turn to the sheriff. What any organization needs to do, not one thing is your fail safe. You can put deputies in school. That is there's no guarantee that is going to prevent or even deal with the problem should it occur. So I'm going to sum it up this way. You have to develop layers of resiliency, or in our cases, we've called it for literally 20 years, rings of security. What do we mean by that? Well, we do believe in deputies in all schools. We believe in training to the highest level of brain, not only of responding to those types of things, but even advanced types of training, bringing in the very best. And as you know, the Sheriff Rambosk, has brought in some of the best men and women in the country. And I'm talking former military operators and special forces, some that have been involved in some of these situations across the country. We spend the money because we know the importance of it. We also develop CIT, but implement CIT. That was Sheriff Rambosk. We started this many, many years ago, of identifying those individuals that might be under crisis intervention and putting training out to all of our members, and specifically those deputies that are in the school. Then on top of that, it's training the school system and making sure we have a solid partnership. We do that, putting in proper policies and procedures and practices to deal with both the prevention and the response aspect of it. Then you go on to the equipment. We are very blessed here, as the sheriff said. We are supported by the community, and he puts his budget for it every year, from armored vehicles to patrol rifles, to every one of our deputies has that now to respond, because most of these situations are not handguns, so we have to be able to combat those issues, to ballistic vests, to ballistic shields, to breaching tools. We've learned seconds count. You got to be able to breach a door, okay, and get to the threat. Those are the types of things. Now we've even evolved under the sheriff's leadership with technology. Drones. We have drones now to do searches throughout schools. Some of those listeners that may not be familiar with us, we have one of the largest school districts in the country. 50 plus public schools, our charter schools, and over 50,000 students in the public school system. So over 2,000 square miles. So you can imagine the challenge.
That's bigger than a lot of cities.
Bigger than some states, quite frankly. You're looking at that aspect of it, and the necessity of technology, along with cameras in the schools, cameras throughout the community, and then the development of what we recently have done. One of our most recent things is the ROC, our real-time operations center, which is tied into all those systems. And should we have something occur, then we're able to operate both the area command and our tactical operation command out in the field and use all those resources. But I'll turn it back over to the sheriff, because I know he has some things he wants to add.
Well, when you look at the individualized, specialized training and equipment that we've got, you look at evolving policies and procedures as well as tactics. We've changed them over time with each incident, and we've gotten down well prior to this to the single response that's immediate upon an issue occurring. That's critically important. We've worked with the school system to look at how their facilities can be hardened. Do we want to make schools prisons? No, absolutely not. But, a single point of entry, identification cards, methods for getting into the school limits the potential of people wandering around the schools. So a lot of work there. But again, as we were looking forward, and this is 2 to 3 years ago, really after Parkland, we said we need to go to the next step, and that is more prevention. So we did a couple of things. We created a mental health unit in our organization. They work directly with the deputies that have been trained in the school system. We created a youth resource center, and that helps parents who have a child that is to the point that they need help. They may not know where to go. They can actually go there, and they can get referred to mental health crisis help or behavioral help or whatever it is that they need. And then, of course, the most important one was the threat assessment management program. And, I got to really congratulate that team, because they have created a process that's a 24/7. It's a daily review of cases and incidents and comments, a weekly brief, then a monthly connection with the CCPS mental health team, who is a critical element working with teachers as far as identifying young people that may need some help without labeling people. It's just trying to identify well in advance of a particular potential of a problem and getting people the assistance that they need. And that's where it's going. Technology and mental health intervention for people to get help. But you know what? I'm happy to tell our residents that we've actually been working on that for a better part of 3 years now.
Yeah, I know that's a huge thing. That's probably the number one component. And I think our relationships we have with our students, our teachers in the school is, and you basically said it. It's the prevention of it, identifying this kid or this person or this adult that's in this situation, in this crisis, that's making these threats, and pay very close attention to that person. I know we've done that. We've been day one. Let me ask you this question. Do we take these threats serious at Collier County Sheriff's Office? If you got a kid that says, I'm going to bring a gun to school? Oh, absolutely. I know the answer.
Absolutely, we do. And I will tell you what, we've gotten comments, threats, remarks, photos on social media at 10, 11 o'clock at night. We're knocking on the door of the house, finding out, do the parents know what has been posted, said, recorded? Do you have weapons? It happens. We have young people who don't know the seriousness of what they're posting, what they're saying, and some, have been harassed, and some are frustrated, and some are reaching out for help. But that's not the way you do it, because as a young person, you'll ruin your entire life making those kinds of comments.
Tim, as you know, being the former captain of youth relations and then the chief, you, just to reiterate, Sheriff saying, we have taken these serious from day one, and I believe we're at the forefront. It doesn't matter what time of day, night, holiday. We're not waiting till the next school day. We respond that night. Literally, we don't care what time it is. Several from either mental health being along with the youth relations deputies and or even someone from our investigative department, all responding together and looking at what we found on social media or what the threat was, if it was an email, phone call, and running that all to ground up into, do they have access to weapons, and so forth, and helping make sure that is a secure environment. And that really, and we've had some encounters over the years that you and I and the sheriff both know, or, things that could have possibly gone wrong. We'll never know, but we know. Yep. We intervened in it early on and took it extremely serious. And let me finish one last thing here on that thought. There is a gambit. If you ask what one thing, I believe is the most successful, I think it's having the programs in place that we have with our youth relations, our gang unit, our show cap unit, our jam jar, our mental health, all that to deal with an issue before hopefully it becomes a Robb Elementary issue.
So I think that's great. And so let me just add a couple of things because it's critically important. One, I want to recognize our fabulous school teachers. They see young people each and every day. They're helping them with their lives and building their careers. We've had many that have reported behavior that was concerning, and we've been able to jump in there. Parents have got to spend the time to watch the phones and watch the computers. You own them. Our kids don't. I have 2 kids. They didn't own the phones. I owned the phones. So what are they doing? What are they up to? And the community, if you see something that's out of place or you think somebody needs help, let somebody know so that we can follow it up.
Yeah, just to follow up on that too, and I want to make sure everybody understands. I got a little bit of an advantage being there before, but we get this all the time. You have the mother, the father, you have an adult, you have talking about their kids. They do not want to call you because they feel that it's no big deal. This is going to pass. Mm-hmm. We want to know. Do you guys want to know?
Absolutely. We want to get involved in the beginning. And there's so many outreach programs, and that's what the sheriff was saying. We have a great community. We have so many resources that we can divert. If we can't take care of it at the sheriff's office, we will lead them in the right direction, whether it's mental health, whether it's big brothers, big sisters. A lot of these are mentoring issues and so forth, and guidance issues. You have to be involved with the youth of our community. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's great stuff. With all this happening, we know it tends to get political, and I've even professed the fact, like, let's stop that for now. Let's stop that for now. Find out what's going on. Find out what's happening. Do you even anticipate, or can you think of anything that could potentially be legislation or put into legislation that could change the situation we're in? I mean, it's a very tough question. It's a tough one.
I think there are a couple of things. Let's talk from the state level from one perspective. I think we're going to see, and some of this might be from the federal level, but I think we're going to see much more of support for mental health training, mental health counseling, mental health referral, and I hate using the word even mental health. We've all had problems in life. If you need to go talk to somebody, we need to come up with a way that our young people and our adults can go, hey, I'm having a problem with this, before it gets out of hand, and try and resolve it. So I think you're going to see that as one of the biggest moves forward. And then I think you're going to see more technology and more interest in law enforcement to be placed in schools throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah, I'll jump in here, and I agree with the sheriff. I think, well, the good news for us is Florida has been at the cutting edge. I hate to use that word, but we have, whether it's been thrown in there because of the events
Right.
we've had
For
here
good or
locally.
bad, right?
Yeah. And I don't say that lightheartedly. Unfortunately, we've had our share of active shooter types of events, both at schools and at commercial aspects. So we have a lot of things in place already as far as, mandatory law enforcement guardian program at all schools in the state of Florida. So that was taken very serious. I think what you're going to see, and the sheriff said, I think there's going to be a big push for mental health, both training for school staff, for law enforcement, and then mandatory follow-up. What I think you're going to see out of this, because I've seen it nationally, but I think it's coming also, and it's necessary, the hardening of schools even more, and a standardization of the hardening of the schools. Now, I'm probably going to get a little political here, and maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. What I will tell you is I saw under COVID where the federal and even state guidelines, not necessarily Florida, but at times they quickly mandated certain things to be done and put money at it. They can do the same here.
Yeah.
And we can there's a lot of monies left over from that COVID aspect that were assigned to schools. Push that in, okay? But make sure there's standards. Make sure we prioritize what those uses of technology and hardening should be. And then let's push that out to those schools, especially those communities that necessarily don't have the ability and the money at their disposal. As we're very fortunate in the community we live in.
Yeah. Real quick on this one for either one. We know that social media is huge. It's a source for information, good and bad, right? Right. We know that. What do we have in place without, tactically giving up information, but what do we have in place right now that the Collier County Sheriff's Office utilizes to monitor social media?
We have systems in place that are able to monitor that which is out publicly in the system, and looks for comments, looks for pictures, looks for threats. But another way we sometimes get them is from another person who heard the threat, didn't quite know what to do with it, but in the end said, you know what, that's not right. And they have contacted. And I think that's what we need to ask more of the public, because, we're not the NSA here that can listen to everybody's phone calls and texts. But you know what? You're communicating with people, or our kids are communicating with other people. And we need to let them know, listen, if you have someone who you thought was a friend starts to comment and make threats, you need to let us know, and we need to let the school system and the sheriff's office know about it.
And again, goes back to that whole thing, not to catch you up, but goes back to the whole thing. Doing the job for a long time, the public always seems to feel like they're maybe bothering us, or it's such a minor thing. And I always tell everybody, listen, we want to know. Trust me. We want to know. We want to have that information. I'd much rather know about it and prevent it and stop it before it gets into a situation like this. Now, from what we know, very limited information on the shooting that happened in Texas. This kid had showed many signs and, a lot of signals that people should have caught up on or should have identified and let people know. Now, we'll probably find out if that had been passed on to other people. I'm sure that's going to come out. But I think we need to learn when something like this happens. Like, hey, Johnny's writing some crazy stuff. Let's make the call, see it, say it, that type of thing. Sounds cliche. I always talk about that. But let somebody know. Anything else to add on to that, Colonel?
Yeah. A few things. You're absolutely right, because okay, so you see something, you don't think it's that major, but
it's your kid or someone's kid's friend. I know him.
It's a flag.
Yeah.
So you call us and we document it. Okay. 2 weeks later, someone that you don't know sees the same issue or sees another problem with the same student. They call us. Point is, if the two people wouldn't have called us, we start building information and we go, something doesn't look right. My point is, each piece of the puzzle starts to build the puzzle. If you don't call in and we don't have the information to start building it and realizing, hey, there's a problem here, we can't work on it. And as I tell my kids, I can't fix the problem if I don't know about the problem. And it's that simple.
And let me throw in one thing. And you asked before what we're doing. If you look at Parkland, Cruz was in the jail, I believe it was 38 times.
Yeah, several.
38 times. Nobody really knew who he was. And in our system, with our mental health unit, by the third time you're in our facility, they get a debrief and vet it and find out why you're there. And if they need mental health evaluation, they go, because we have clinicians. We're one of the few agencies in the state or the country that have hired civilian clinicians trained through a partnership with the David Lawrence Center, who will go in and not only check on people who have had crisis issues in the community, but they also work in the jail. And why are people continuing to come back in? That to me, that was the biggest red flag. Why are you not tracking after 38 times what the problem is?
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, real quick too. The sheriff said earlier, you said, I got to say it one more time. These things have been the best and the worst for our nation, for the world. What I mean by that, though, is great information sharing, but also now with bullying, the speed of it, so forth, it's been very detrimental. But as a parent, my girls will tell you, and I can't preach this enough, as the sheriff said, it is yours as an adult. You probably purchased it for your child. Get in there and know what your kids are looking at and what they're doing. Shame on you if you don't. My girls will tell you, I have, that is mine, and I can go in there at any point. And I assure you, my wife and I do, and we know what is being corresponded between our children. And that is so important to stay on track. And you can glean a wealth of knowledge out of that and get your child. You know, everybody's like, well, I don't want my child to get in trouble. We're not here to get anybody in trouble. We're here to provide a solution and hopefully help resolve the problem or issue before it becomes a problem.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it used to be back in the day where parents were a little bit nervous about going in their kid's room and searching. And, you know, that's your room. Go in your room. The exact same thing with the social media platforms, the cell phones, things like that. You've got to be a nosy parent.
You used to teach that in the gang.
Yeah, that's
how
what we
to identify in the rooms,
what to look for, signs, symbols, all the different things. And you know, and parents have, you know, today a little bit, and there's a lot of really good parents, and they kind of want to have their kids to have, you know, opportunities and freedoms and things like that. So we do understand it. I'm a parent. I get it. And it goes back to, well, my kid, you know, he just did this. It wasn't a big deal. And his friends doing the same thing. Now his friends are doing it. Before you know it, you get this big snowball effect. And after something bad happens, we go back and we see, oh, damn, I should have done something about it. You know, be a nosy parent, right? I think it's good. It's good to do that.
I call it involved.
Yeah, involved. Yeah, you can say it.
Or nosy.
You know, that's good. It's good. It's good. Okay, real quick, without revealing any of the tactics we have, how can we look at our citizens of Collier County, our parents of Collier County, and say, listen, it's okay to drop your kid off at school. And I don't know if we can ever, and we had the discussion, 100% say that everything's going to be fine. But how can we possibly look at a parent and say, it's okay for your kid to go to school on Monday?
I'll let the sheriff start, and I'll be happy to jump in.
Well, I think you have to look at what we have put in place over time. We've talked about a lot of it today. We're very, very fortunate that we have the programs, the training, the equipment in the event that we need to stop a threat or neutralize a threat. But we've already invested significantly in how to prevent the threat as well. But, you know, we need parents' help. When you're at the school dropping your kids off, make sure you take a look around and see what's going on. I mean, we all have to participate. Again, I mentioned teachers before and school staff, fabulous. They need to participate. They are participating. We need to do it each and every day. You know, it's not unlike making an investment that, you know, you want the overall safest community and everybody works towards that effort. you lock your car. Do you have to? Well, maybe you don't have to, but you know what? If you lock it, somebody roaming around may pull the door and not get in it. So you do everything you can possibly do to limit, eliminate, and then take care of, neutralize if you ever have to.
Yeah. Great words.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. As you said it earlier, can I look anybody in the eye and say this will never happen here? I can't give that guarantee. And anybody that does, I'm sorry, they're wrong. This can happen anywhere in the country. But what we can do is we can prepare, we can mitigate, we can identify, we can respond, and then we can eliminate. So I got several emails this morning. The sheriff did. Are our kids safe to go to school? Over the last couple of days, I'll look you in the eye and say, absolutely. Based on what I just said, there's probably nobody better in this country, quite frankly. And I say that humbly, under the sheriff's guidance and how he's prepared both this agency and this community, that we are competent, we are equipped, we are trained, and we're quite frankly ready to deal with the situation. So yes, you can send your kids to school and feel very comfortable that we will give it everything we have to protect them every day at the highest level. And that includes giving our lives if we have to, starting with the sheriff and I. And I'll say one thing, and how can we know that? Because you never really know till the football game comes. You can practice all day long.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, it turned out to not be a real situation. You were still at the agency. The sheriff was our sheriff. This was a few years ago. We had a system. I don't want to say it was at the DLC. That's no secret. David Lawrence Center. They used some technology. Someone hacked into their system and literally set off an internal alarm to where including the staff thought they had an active shooter on the premises. We responded because we thought it was real. We as an agency, you were one of them. I was one of them. I can say this now because we responded as if it was a real incident up into setting up our talk and clearing the facility twice. We had over 90 officers respond, deputies, not only of the Collier County Sheriff's Office, but adjoining agencies along with fire and EMS. And when that was done, we looked at each other and said, this is how, if it was real, this is what we needed to do. So that's game. That's the game. That's about as close you can come to a real football game without having to, do it.
Yeah. One last thing, and we can stay here as long as we want. We're on live right now, so we're good. No, it's great. The big thing I believe is reunification, right? So reunification is going to be a problem. So as soon as, we know within seconds, and the media knows within seconds of one of these incidents, people are going to that scene. And you got to understand, and I know you do, because we have kids. You're going to go to that school and you're going to do everything you can to make sure that my kid is going to be okay. Have you guys got a plan? Which I feel bad about asking these questions because I know we do. And what's that look like?
Let me intro this for
Absolutely.
you. Because, no, really.
No, it's under his guidance.
He's
been all over me to get it done.
No, the colonel led the effort to develop our new reunification plan. And the reason being is everybody thinks or thought they had a reunification plan. And you never, of course, want to have to put that in place.
Right.
But it was like, let's pick a location and here's how it might operate.
It looks perfect that way.
It does. Until you start looking at some of the tragedies that are occurring and evaluating what didn't work and how the trauma was aggravated by a system that just did not work. So we talked a lot about we need to upgrade what we've been doing, and take it away, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Sheriff. He's very humble, but he is the driving force of why we have a plan. And I will say this, it is a solid plan, very detailed. I'm not going to go into all the details of it for obvious reasons. But very few agencies in this country, really everybody drives towards and understand it, of the active shooter plan. But the reunification plan and / the follow-up investigation is what takes the time. Most active shooter situations are over in, 7 minutes or less, and usually a couple minutes, quite frankly. The reunification / investigation is going to go on for days, months, at least, unfortunately. So with that, we've put a lot of time and effort, because that is where, in our opinion, and I think I speak for law enforcement and general public safety, where a lot of people in the past have fell down. So we have worked tirelessly. The members of our agency, we set up a committee, and of not just law enforcement, of investigations, of special ops, of our emergency management, of our civilian victim assistance members. Okay, because where people do get a little confused at, they consider the follow-up investigation and reunification one thing, two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to identify that early on, that you're going to have an active investigation going on, because you're talking about homicide and so forth, that it has to be
evidence, all that stuff.
Evidence
right?
collection,
Crazy,
possibly multiple scenes. That is very in depth. And a lot of your agency is going to be tied up holding perimeters, gathering evidence, talking to witnesses, and so forth. Then you break that off. Then you have the true reunification. And that is reunifying those children or those individuals with their parents. And unfortunately, in this case, and I got goosebumps, can't say it right now, those parents that won't see their children alive again, and advising them of the situation and the follow-up help and what is going to have to take place, not just at that moment, but in the days and weeks and months following up to that. And we put a lot of thought and effort into that. And we have sent people all over the country to these locations, quite frankly, that where it has occurred, and learned from them. That is one thing I will say we are very good at. You were still at the agency when the sheriff asked me to put together. This just goes to show his vision forward. Remember, we held the active shooter symposium, where we brought in members that were involved in a situation from those agencies,
Yes.
from Sandy Hook, from Pulse, from Marjorie Stoneman. We brought them into our agency literally and held training for 2 days with them on the good, bad, the ugly of what they did good, where they believe they could have improved at. And it was some of the best training for us as an agency in learning from them. And we've done the same thing here. Once again, I'm not here to second guess anybody. What I want to do is learn from you and your incident, so that hopefully it never happens here if we have it. So I'll look you in the eye and tell you we have a solid plan. We're working with the Collier County Public School System right now. We finalized our aspect of it. We're working with them on theirs, and then also with the county emergency management. And we're good for that, because you know me, I'm a plan guy.
Yeah,
I'm always
absolutely.
And the sheriff's trained me.
Always on it.
It's always chaos, but you want controlled chaos. I know they get tired of me saying this, but it's always going to be chaos. But if we have a plan, we can evolve it, because each one of these situations is independent on itself. But at least we have a template to go from that.
Well, I think the next one, based off of what at least people surmise happen out here, is people are not going to listen to police,
right?
Law enforcement. They're just going to go. And obviously, depending on the situation we have inside, you're going to go in that school, and it's going to be maybe a worse situation. And I know that we've talked about it in the past, is, you know, I'm sure at some point we got to look at it and say, do these kids need to hunker down? Do they need to run? I mean, that's going to be something that we really need to look at, I think. And, you know, you got a first 1-story building and kids are hunkering down in classrooms. I don't know, but that's something probably, but that reunification, people are going to come and they're going to flock to that school, but we have to obviously handle that as we see.
And that's why you have to have the confidence of your community, because in this case,
that's it, confidence. Yeah.
You don't even know. And I know from us, we're going to continue to engage that threat and go after that threat, whether there's a stun. Like I said, I don't want to go into all of our tactics, but if there's a stimuli, what I mean by that, if we hear gunshots over, we're going to it, and we locate, isolate, eliminate. If we don't, as in like David Lawrence situation, we flood it. We're going to flood it, because once again, even though we don't hear stimuli, we got to clear that whole situation. I say this though, to reiterate what you're saying, if parents are coming and they're going to get involved in that whole situation, that we might not be done clearing it yet.
Right.
So we have to have the confidence of the community and have a good system in place to where they believe in us, to listen to us and let us do our job in clearing it, making it safe and rendering it safe, and removing victims or getting help to those and securing it, and getting them reunified, or in the worst case scenario, advising them.
And you know, sometimes we're asked, why are we doing all this? Because this will never happen here. We absolutely have a fabulous community, but but anything can happen anywhere by anyone. And we're going to do everything we can to prevent it. But if it occurs, I can tell you tactically, you are in the right community to be protected.
Sheriff Colonel, I'm at a disadvantage because I know how much you guys eat, drink, bleed, sweat this stuff. And it's not like you started it today because of this, right? We've been doing this since 77, building up to where we're at now. I am a reassuring person. I tell parents, I go, listen, if you're going to have your kids in these schools in our county or in Collier County, listen, we're doing everything that we possibly know of, and we can always learn more, right?
Absolutely.
To make sure your kids are safe. Is there going to be a breakdown somewhere? Yeah, I'm sure there is. But we want to make sure it's not a breakdown on the day that something like this happens. We want to keep our men and women that are protecting our kids trained. You guys have done that wonderfully. They got the best equipment, I can tell you that.
They do.
We got the best thing. They are, we talk to them, we run through these scenarios. I personally have talked to the deputies that work in the school and say, are you up and are you ready for this assignment? Because as with any deputy, this assignment is not just your normal assignment. When we hear gunshots, we hear things going bad, we are going to eliminate the threat. And, I don't know the total package solution, but if you're living in Collier County and Sheriff Marcino, same thing. No nonsense, right?
Absolutely.
But if you're living in one of these counties, your kids are going to be safe, and we're going to do the best we can to make sure that they go to school and come home to your family. That's what I can say.
I know in Southwest Florida, we take it extremely serious here, especially between the two counties, Lee and Collier, and we'll do our very best to protect those families and those children. I do want to say one thing, and I'll turn it over to Sheriff for a closing. But Timmy, you were a big part of that as the captain of YRD, then coming over to patrol as a captain, then chief. You were instrumental in this. You're very humble. You haven't said that once, but I'm going to say it. We are the reason we're prepared as much as we are. You were a big part of that. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you, Colonel. Means a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly I concur with that. And again, we've known each other for a very long time and had the same goals in mind. I think it comes down to any other profession in the world, and that is you either keep up and look forward, always ahead of where you are, or you will fall behind. And we are not going to fall behind.
That's unbelievable. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I miss you guys, right? So I miss you guys. You guys are doing all the great things and keeping people focused. And I really appreciate you coming in. Always welcome to come to the studio and get some stuff out. We got a pretty good reach, so it's good that we get to get the information out. And what's good about it is when we do this, it lives, right? So people can go back in and watch it and do all that stuff. So thank you so much.
So you're on a lighter note. You're not going to ask us how crime is in Collier County?
Well, yeah, of course. How's crime in Collier County?
You got to throw him a softball.
We know that we've talked about it for how many years? Collier County is just such a great place that we really have any crime here, but it's always good. How is crime?
Yeah,
Sheriff?
Unfortunately, we do have some, but the proactive approach of our members, and that's really what it is, because again, it's a preventative basis in how we protect. But if you got a chance to see last week the U.S. News and World Report, they ranked and analyzed 150 metro areas in the country, and Naples, Collier County was in the top 12 of almost everything from quality of life to best places to retire. But Collier County was #1 safest community out of those 150 metro areas. So thank you to the men and women of the Collier County Sheriff's Office. You do a great job.
Hey, that's great. And I love living in this place. This is an amazing place. We are living, we're living here. We're having great. Well, I just want to, again, thank you guys. And, come on anytime. We love it. Obviously a little bit of a different subject, maybe next time, but we want to keep everybody in Collier County reassured that we're doing everything we can to make sure their kids are safe. And I thought it was important that we had you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. And on this show, we always go, we're out. Oh, we get a little fist bump or something. All right, 239 Uncensored. Everything Southwest Florida and beyond, and we are out.